This episode is brought to you by No Lack Nation. When you think about what do you need and what do you want out of life, what do you think? No Lack has taken the messages and mantras that represent hustle, grind, and ambition and turned them into art so that they can be worn as an extension of expression for yourself. It isn't just a clothing brand. No Lack is a state of being, a collective presence of individuals with unique visions but common goals. Go down to their store, 1214 East Carson Street. Check out their inventory. Tell them MVP Podcast sent you. Get some gear. Also shop at their website at nolacknation.com. You know, the button's going bad on it. I got to replace it with a little magnetic battery.
Sun is bright.
We got
here,
the
boy.
sun out now. I'm glad I got these on.
I'm gonna have to flip the hat around, honestly.
Literally.
But all right, shall we?
Yeah, let's get into it, bro.
We got a new backdrop here. Alex's backyard out here in New Wilmington. This is officially episode 20 of the MVP. Are we calling it the MVP from now on?
The MVP.
The MVP.
Mullen V on podcasts. Yes.
Perfect.
Because whenever I was saying that thought to you was because if you have ever heard like the contradiction with people saying like RSVP, like I'll be there. Like if all you're supposed to say back as an RSVP is just RSVP. Because it's like, I forget the actual words, but you would double repeat the word if you said
we'd be
that I'll
double repeating.
Yes, we would be.
But episode 20 officially, and I think what we're going to do is we're going to kick it off with 15 minutes around that each, where we talk about our actual story, because I don't think we've really done that yet. Outside of the very first episode, we briefly got into what we do. Mm-hmm. But I think this would be a good opportunity for us to explain how we got to this point and like what we do in a 15-minute fashion. And then we'll get into our topics for the rest of the show.
I love it.
So far, I mean, we take back 20 episodes down. Kind of crazy.
It is wild.
We started basically around 1 year ago, actually, 12 months ago.
Definitely.
Right around this time.
It would be like this time because we started this up come springtime.
Yeah. So, kind of crazy to think. 20 episodes. We've had some really cool guests. We've had some shows where it was just us. We've covered some deep topics, some funny topics, some crazy national news topics.
Right on.
Had some reels do well, some reels do not well. Some TikToks do well, some
it's
TikToks
a learning
don't
process. Do well.
But it's a lot of fun. We're having fun with it, and we appreciate everybody that has come along for the ride so far. But you hear that?
Yeah, it's not as bad now that the headphones are turned down, which is a plus.
Yeah.
When you dropped the mic, I was like,
oh, I bet.
Those are ringing in my head.
So who wants to go first?
Oh, you pick. Flip a coin. No, I'm just kidding.
Alex, who should go first?
I don't know.
You want to find out more about Josh? What? You want to find out more about Josh?
I already know a lot about him.
I guess you could grill me first, Josh.
All right.
Then.
So we'll just start with give us the rundown, like what you do, where you are currently, and semi how you got into what you do.
Yeah. No. Yeah. I'll take you on a backtrack of the Alex Mullen story, I guess.
Put us on the clock, Alex. 15 minutes.
Yeah. You got the timer out?
I got you.
Because I could get long-winded and I'd just cut me off.
Me too.
All right, you guys ready?
Yeah,
Yep.
we're ready.
All right,
He's got it. All right. So I think I look back. I mean, currently right now we're at our house up in New Wilmington where I'm currently mobile detailing, still running the mobile detailing business up here while in school and still doing a remote internship, doing executive recruiting, which is great. It's giving me a class credit as well, so that's helping out big time up here. But in terms of where it all started, I go back to my dad and grandfather. So my pap was always around cars. And that was his hobby. Both my dad and my pap are also truck drivers. So their job is logistics and cars. But my dad more exclusively was, whatever he grew up, detailed cars as well. And my pap, I like have like a key memory in my head where I go back to like where my interest for detailing started. And it was with my grandfather. He had this Plymouth Belvedere that he built from the frame up. That was a 65 Plymouth Belvedere. He worked on cars before. My uncle had an old 442 Oldsmobile that they fixed up as well. But like that was always their side thing and just having fun, just working on cars. And I remember the one day my pap brought the Belvedere over to my house, man, and this thing was muscular, tricked out, like beast of a car. 2 carbs in it, man, Hemi engine. It was a freaking monster. Like, I think he was pumping like 600 plus horsepower. I think it was closer to 7. Dude, like, he would start this thing. He had to run it on racing fuel, bro.
Oh, yeah.
Like, he had to go to the airport to get fucking gasoline. And like, when he would start this thing a couple times, we'd be in the car and it'd just be burning your eyes. Like, it was crazy. But so he brought it over in his trailer, which is how I have the truck now. Is he used the F-250 to haul around the car. He would go to different shows and whatnot. And basically, whenever he brought it over to our house, he was, messing with a couple things here and there, but like more so to take me and my dad for a ride in it and just show me. And he, the one day, was like, Alex, you want to help me clean the car? And I was just like, yeah. Because it was something that I could do whenever I was around like 11 or 12, because I really couldn't, I didn't know what I was doing working around a car. I mean, I really still don't, but just the bare minimum to get by now at this point. And I was like, this is kind of where my love kind of took off for it. And my dad, whenever he grew up, was doing it. So he taught me a couple things. My pap taught me a lot of things. And then it started in my neighborhood. It started with, obviously, my parents' cars doing their cars, and then worked its way to doing Jared's Charger was the first car that I ever got paid for to do. And he asked me, he's like, what do you need? He's just like, what do you need to do it? And like, at the time I was like, thought nothing of it. And he was just like, no, I'm going to pay you for it. Like, I'm going to take care of you, obviously. Like, and I think I charged him like $40 at first to just do it.
Yeah.
And I think I spent like 3 hours on it. Then my dad came out. He went over it and checked it because he wanted to make sure like I was doing a good job, the right job, and things that I could work on. And I was just like, fuck it. I'm going to post this on Instagram and we're going to see. And Jared was talking to me about it, and he was just like, man, no one else is doing this. Like, you're the only kid around Bethel that's going to do it. So why not just like post it and see? And then next was Corey, my barber. And I lived right above this barber shop. Went down there, and he saw the post on Instagram and was like, bro, I didn't even know you were doing this. So I literally had my permit, bro. I had my permit, and I was taking their car, and I was driving it back up to my house. And like, you're not supposed to do that, but like I did, and like was detailing it at my house.
Mm-hmm.
And like, dude, then next thing you know, one barber wanted their stuff done. Oh, this guy was getting a haircut. He was waiting in a line, so it would probably be like 2 hours. He wanted his car done. And then it just kind of had this like trickle down effect, man. And I was just bouncing around with it, kept posting. And then, when I turned 16, my pap ultimately, he got sick and passed away, but he wanted me and my dad to have the F-250. My uncle Rob got the 65 Belvedere, and he kept a hold of it and took care of it for as long as he could, man. But that car was a lot of work.
Yeah.
He sold it and gave the money back to my grandma, which was cool. But now have the full mobile unit because people like it better when you come to their house. And I figured that out, obviously. I started out in the back of a Maxima, just working like with just chemicals and using water and their electric. But now we have the tank, the generator, the power washer all running. So the full
it's a whole
there.
shop on wheels. Literally.
It is. I mean, with PA weather, it could be a little bit challenging sometimes, as we've talked before. But yeah, man, I think that's kind of the root of it all is family is, I guess, where it started.
Family is where it started, and family's still where it's at, honestly. But
It is.
Take us through like the transformation a little bit, like 2020, whenever things really started to kind of pick up for you.
Yeah, of course. I think like that was one of the turning points for me. That was when it was middle of COVID. We were at home, not really doing much. I literally just got the water tank that Christmas. And I'm sitting at home because we went back home for spring break and I was still waiting for things to clear up. Dude, as soon as it got warm, my phone absolutely blew up. Corey moved down to the Cannonsburg shop, and I remember calling him on the phone, and I'm like, hey, bro, I want to let you know, like, I know you moved down to this shop. I have a water tank in the back of my truck now. I want to come down there. and I'm going to get everybody right in the barbershop. So he was like, yeah, bro, we're setting it up. Took care of me. I went down there. Sorry about the cough. Set it up. I was detailing down there. And, dude, like, he reposted it the one time with, like, my truck in the back. And people were like, oh, he comes to my house.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, everybody.
Game changer.
Exactly. Everybody that was at home wanted their cars to look clean. And then people also got, like, the shot of reality when the used car market, like, went through the roof that they want to preserve the car for longer. So that was, like, a huge thing as well. Like, I want to take care of this car now that I'm at home and working at home. And one thing led to another. And I think, like, what you're hinting at was, like, the Steelers one, getting into the Steelers
unofficial
talk.
detailer of the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yes, so we'll get to that one as well. And, like, going through COVID, like, I mean, it really took precedence. Like, people I would literally just have people not even talk to me sometimes when I go to their house. They would unlock the door because people were still scared of it. So I would mask up, glove up, and I mean, like, I got it. Like, if you were nervous of it, I completely understood and, took max precaution in detailing. But the one day I was going down towards, or I was talking to Jared, and Jared, through NOLAC, obviously had a lot of Steelers players going through the store. And the one day I did his Range Rover, I detailed his Range Rover. He took it down to the store, and Anthony Johnson, a receiver for the Steelers, was down there and was like, bro, who did your car? And he was like, oh, it's my boy Alex. He's a beast, whatnot. And, I mean, prior to this, I was doing Boz's car also. So, like, that also helped and gave me a little bit of credibility. I was doing Jared plugged me in with him my freshman year. So, before it really took off, I was doing Boz's car, which was great as well. So, that helped. But Anthony just hit me up, and I went down there, and I thought I was originally just going to do his Charger, which is down in the glass house. There was a lot of Steelers that lived in those apartments. And I went down there and detailed the Charger, and Melvin Ingram picks up the phone and calls me as well, and he calls me and he's like, hey, I want you to detail my car as well. I'm like thinking, oh, what could it be? And he pulls around the bend with a Rolls-Royce Cullinan, and I was just like, that is literally 3 times worth my house on wheels. Like, unbelievable. He was like, yeah, bro, like, get me right. So, detailed that thing, man. The whole time I was just like, this is
Holy
unreal.
shit.
Yeah, this is unreal, man. Like, this is crazy. And then Juju eventually pulled up as I was, like, finishing the second one. And he was just like, yo, bro, you detail cars. And I literally walked up to him, and I was just like, yes, sir. Shook his hand. I was like, my name's Alex. Anything you need, let me know. Hand him a business card. And then Chase also pulled up and, like, got out of the car, and I was just like, fuck it, I'm feeling it now. I'm like, I'm on a roll.
Yeah.
I'm like, hey, Chase, if you ever need anything, let me know. I detail cars. Handed him a business card as well. Mm-hmm. And Chase hit me up first and wanted to get his car detailed, and then got on. Juju texted me like 2 weeks later. And then we were kind of on a reoccurring schedule with Juju, just going and doing it. So I was going to his house a lot, or going down to the glass house 2 years ago. So it was a good time. He was a good dude, man. All those guys were just great guys. But yeah, it was a really cool experience, man. I'm glad it happened.
That's huge. I remember, I think around that time period, 2020, I forget when we had that entrepreneurship class together.
It was
around that
it was
spring?
then, bro, because we were bouncing ideas off each other, dude.
Yeah, because I don't think we ever finished that class, huh? I think that was the one we did online after. I don't even remember. But
no, we didn't. Yeah, we
met
did
each
online.
other around that time, and I remember seeing like your detail stuff, and you started posting like these crazy cars, and I'm like, holy smokes, like business is booming. And then I saw like the names behind it, and it was like, oh, this is sweet. So you've had a lot of success there with the detailing business. And what are your future goals here, kind of to wrap up your 15? Well, actually, wait, let me make sure I didn't miss on any questions.
No, you're fine, bro. I think I was rolling. We have to be at the 15-minute mark.
This is a good one.
We have 4 minutes.
Perfect.
We were waving
Speed
hi to
round.
my neighbor. My neighbor's pulling in over there, by the way. That's why
I
was
like
looking
this vibe though.
I was
out
looking
back.
over there. Yeah.
You hear the birds, and that's a nice. I like that. Like if I got a
That
GMC
AT4
pickup,
all-terrain is
well, that color, I love that color.
Yeah, the sand.
But speed round here to finish it up.
Yeah.
Who believed in you before anyone else?
Honestly, my dad.
Yeah,
He
family.
He thought the idea of going mobile was the biggest thing for me. Also Jared. Yeah. It's like my older brother, so like he was also in there as well.
What are some of the obstacles you faced early on?
People trusting me with their car at 16.
Especially when you get into like a nice vehicle.
Oh,
They're like,
yeah.
why should I trust you?
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
What gave you the confidence and courage to start your own business?
I think having the clientele whenever I first started gave me a lot of confidence, and also starting with doing stuff for free at first and picking up what I learned there,
Yeah.
and then starting to charge people.
That's
You know?
awesome.
So like jumping in and doing that was easier at that point once I had like the people there to
Yeah.
do it, so I didn't have to go and do
And I'm
something
sure
else in
getting
the
some of
summers.
those first couple like big ones where you're like, oh, like they trust me. Like that's big confidence booster there.
It is, and it gave me a lot of confidence. I mean, sure, there's been times when I've had some fuck ups, but like,
Oh, yeah, it
I mean,
happens.
it happens, dude.
Uh-huh.
I mean, and then you go through that process of making it right.
Yeah.
But yeah, bro, that's a good one.
To wrap it up, what are your future plans with it, and any advice to some kid out there that wants to do the same?
Future plans. So I was telling Josh earlier, I'm still, I'm keeping this rolling, and having it, in terms of like being able to do it when I want at leisure, and not being pressed as much for it. My original goal with it, my first couple years, whenever I took it seriously and official in my freshman year here, was to just pay off school, and like it kind of took a course of its own, which has been really great. But now it's like time. I think I could like step back a little bit, take the cars that I want to do, and then do some bigger jobs. Eventually get my own house with a little garage in it, and have the ability to pick up coatings and do that on the side.
Perfect.
Yes, sir. And then
Love it.
someone's doing it out there or wants to do it out there themselves. Just start. I mean, we were talking about that earlier, but start doing stuff for free. It's all right to do stuff for free because you're not going to be good when you start. So do stuff for free. That is my biggest recommendation. When you do it for free, people are going to love you and people are going to tip you. So my advice.
Facts. And those connections too can be huge later on.
Yes, 100%. Let's get into you, bro. What are we at time-wise? Did I do good there? Whew.
That was clean.
Good stuff.
That was good, though.
That's a pound right there.
All
That's
right,
a fist pump.
reset. 15 back on the clock, and it's your turn.
Ooh, all right. I kind of like having the paper set up too because I get on.
I do too.
You on? We queued? We're
We're
15?
good. 15.
All right. Take me through the day, the time, the moment that you fell in love with the camera.
So for me, what got me initially into it was all drone related, and a drone. Honestly, the one that I started with didn't even have I didn't use it to take pictures. I literally just did it because it was fun to fly around, and it was kind of like a video game type feel. But that was my grandpa that got me my first remote control, I guess you'd call it drone, back in 2014, 15-ish, I'd say, around that time. So at that point, literally didn't use it to take any photos or videos, just for fun. And then as I got to mess around with that and crashed it a bunch of times, started seeing stuff on the internet of people putting GoPros on these things and going up high, and I'm like, oh, that'd be cool to do. So I always would do a lot of yard work around his house, do mulch in the spring, help him out all the time, and he would in turn pay me or reward me for that. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that we made a deal on was, could I get this drone that could hold the GoPro? And that was probably around 2015, 2016 that I got that, and that was the first one I had that took videos and photos. So started flying that thing. Didn't put any of that stuff anywhere. It was just literally just for fun to be like, oh, look, there's our house, or there's...
I would love to see those now.
Oh, I think it'd be cool to look back, and I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure I still have pretty much all of it, which is
That's great.
what's cool. But that started out there. Fell in love with the flying, the drones, and everything. Senior year rolls around. Well, it's important for me to note before I get into that, but hadn't done any photography or video really at all up to that point. Only had did the drone stuff. But senior year rolls around, I have to do a senior project to graduate from Seneca Valley, and so I chose to build a drone. And it's not as hard as it sounds. It's kind of like building a computer. You just kind of get the components from the store, and then you put those components together to actually make the drone. So my senior year, I put together a little drone, and it held the GoPro on the bottom, but the twist was it used goggles and a wireless transmitter to send a live video back to the goggles.
That's wild.
So you could put the goggles on, you could see what it was seeing. And up until that point, that wasn't really super common to be able to see like what the camera was seeing. Not easily accessible for like the average hobby person.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, that was like cool, and like the teachers loved it and everything. So I did that, graduated, pretty much stopped flying drones right when I graduated, because I was like, I'm going to school now, like not going to take them with me to school. I only had like one at that point, but went to Penn State Barron to study mechanical engineering. We got a 1.7 GPA my first semester, like did horrible. I was not doing good in any of these classes. Wasn't happy with my situation up there. And so I started to think around Thanksgiving, oh, I should think about transferring. Transfer to Westminster. Only reason Westminster wasn't on the list initially was because I wanted to do mechanical engineering. They don't have mechanical engineering here. So I was like, Penn State Barron it is. While I was at Barron, I kind of got into like computer science, coding, and Westminster did have that, so that's why I transferred. And it was like a fresh start, put the 1.7 GPA behind me,
Right on.
move forward. So I transferred in that spring, and that spring still didn't do anything like creative like that. Just got through, got like a much better GPA, and like back on track with computer science and everything. That summer I needed a job. Well, actually I missed a big part. I had gotten into golf a lot the summer before college, and I wasn't good. Like, I wouldn't consider myself good or anything like that, but I had fun playing it, and I wanted to learn to get better. Happened to get in contact with the golf coach, and at Westminster, it's kind of like a program where if you're interested in it and you're willing to go out and practice, like, they'll take you, because they were trying to grow the program at that point in time. So I got in touch with Coach Torrance, ended up on the golf team that spring, so I was able to start practicing a whole bunch, and really started to fall in love with golf around that time. So I needed a job for that summer. Wanted to work at a golf course because I liked being around golf and everything. And my coach recommended Truesdale because it was close to where I lived. And then Mr. Rankin, Bill Rankin Golf Center, he's a Westminster alumni, very generous donor.
That setup is insane.
Yeah, we'll have to link the video to the golf center there at the end. But he was like, oh, go to Truesdale. I'm on the board there. Like, I'll get you in. And I was like, okay. So I applied. Actually, as a golf person outside, as like a golf cart put away guy. I don't even know what it's called. Mm-hmm. But just put golf carts away after the summer days. And I never heard back from her or whatever. So I was like, well, shit, like, school's done in like 2 or 3 weeks. Like, I got to get something here. So I applied as a busser, I think. And I did that at Olive Garden before that. So I got in there at Truesdale. And it just so happened my first day there, one of my friends from high school was also his first day there. And we both didn't know. We just walked in. And we're like, oh, hey, man, what's up? So we kind of went through it together, got into like the whole Truesdale thing. Made it a lot of fun because it was like you were just getting paid to hang out.
Yeah.
We also met this kid named Camden. And we were all the same age. We were having a ton of fun that summer. And one day he was like, I just got this drone. We should go fly it somewhere. Like, I've never really flown it. And I was like, oh, I used to fly drones. So one day we went to his house after work. It was dark out, and we flew this thing. Barely, I think we crashed it, honestly. But it was fun. And I'm like, wow, dark. Like, the technology is a lot different. It's come a long way just from 2 years ago when I was kind of interested in it. So then that sparked some curiosity inside of me, and I think I went to Best Buy like a week or two later, and there was like a DJI Spark. It was like $400 or $500, and I was like, I'm gonna get this and start messing with these again and see. So I got that, and I started flying it around with those two guys, Brock and Camden. And by that point of the summer was coming to the end, so everybody had to go back to school. I came back to Westminster. They went their ways. So one night I was just flying it here because it was like a cool sunset, and I got some cool shots. I was like, oh, that's sweet. But that drone was like just a starter one, so I wanted to get something better. So I bought this pretty expensive one, shipped it to my grandma's house up here, and I was like, you can't tell my parents. They're going to be pissed. I just spent like half the money I made this summer on this drone. Got that drone, started flying it around up here, and like some of the first videos I posted, I didn't even have like social media till that point too. So I started like an Instagram, a Facebook, Twitter, all that summer. Posted some of these clips that I made, and it received like a lot of appreciation, and people liked it and like, oh, that's sweet. Can I pay you to do that? And I was like, no, I don't do paid stuff, like just for fun. So that's kind of the part with drones. So that would have been my sophomore year at that point. Ended up having a class with a kid named Connor Wilson. He was like, oh, I see your drone stuff all the time. The football team's looking for somebody to fly drones for them because they use them for practice to get like that Madden view. And I was like, oh, that'd be something like I'd be interested in.
Mm-hmm.
So linked up with him, and I took over his spot because he was graduating in the spring. I took over his spot in the spring, learned the ropes. I was like, this is pretty cool. Went back home for the summer, didn't really do much with anything creative. Came back in the fall for like training camp, and I remember the first like week or so of that, I was like, I don't think this is the right move, because I was like 2-a-days. I was there all day.
They're brutal, dude.
All day out in the August sun where it's like 85 degrees, sun all day. And I'm flying this drone, and it's like a little bit stressful because you got to make sure it's up in the air at the right point in time and you're not missing clips. And then you got to organize it all and like help the coaches.
Then
and
the
if you
coaches
mess
can
up,
yell.
you know, coaches sometimes yell. You got to get used to that. So like at first you're like, oh shit, like they're pissed, but it's just the way it is. You get over it. But then like after the first couple of weeks, fell in love with that. I was like, this is a lot of fun. And around that point, I started seeing people do like hype videos and photos at other like big schools. Clemson was a big one. I saw a lot of that. I wanted to do that. So one day before a game, I went and got a Panasonic GH5, Lumix GH5. And the reason I got that is because it could do 4K 60 frames per second, and it could do like a little bit of slow motion as well. So I bought that thing, whipped it out for warm-ups, the first game of the season against Capital in 2019. And I could only do warm-ups because I had to go up in the scissor lift for the rest of the game. So I was up there.
That's scary.
Blowing in the wind, doing like the regular game camera. I think Alex remembers that.
That's nuts.
But yeah, so I whipped up a little hype video like a week or so later of the warm-up stuff, and people fucking loved it at Westminster. The players.
Oh,
like,
I remember, bro.
Everybody. And I was like, oh, like this is kind of fun. Like I like doing this. And I think the coaches, Coach Heck and Coach Parker at that point were like, we want you to do this every game. So at that point, I started doing it every game the rest of the season. Had a lot of fun. Started to like grow a following on Instagram a little bit of other Westminster students. And that was around the point where I was like, I might be able to start making a little bit of money off of this.
Right.
And people started asking me to do stuff for them for money. So I think the first paid project I did was with Joe Meinert. He was also on the football team. We took family photos of Coach Parker and his family, like right before Thanksgiving that same year. And then the second one was Alpha Gamma Delta sorority here at Westminster. We did a little sorority recruitment video for them. I think we charged like, I don't even remember. I think I said I'd just do it for free. If you can pay me, you can pay me type thing.
Yeah.
Because I just wanted, you got to build a portfolio.
Right.
So those are the first two paid things.
You had like the smoke bomb things
Yep,
too.
Yep, we got the smoke bombs out. And I remember that first one we did, like we didn't really plan it out. And we're like, you're with like 40, 50 girls. Like you got to get everybody arranged. So thank God Joe was with me, because it was like we could like split up and kind of do our thing. But it was cold. It was windy. It was kind of miserable the second day we did it because it was just freezing.
Right.
But it's what we had to do. So those are the first two paid ones. And then I think I just started to slowly get some more clients. I did a ton of free work. Basically everything I did here at Westminster was free because I just had to build the portfolio. And obviously, college students, they don't have money to pay for that type of stuff.
Unfortunately, not.
We're not like NIL era either, where like people have money. Like if you're a D1 athlete, maybe you get some compensation. But so I did a ton of free work, ton of sports work up here, and then I got into like a couple small business videos. COVID hit that spring, 2020, and me and Brock, I remember vividly, we were having a conversation one night because there was literally nothing better to do at that point. And we were like, well, rather than us just sitting here and like sitting around for 2 months and like just coming out the same way as we started the lockdown, why don't we do stuff to prepare ourselves and like come out running? So that's what we did. I started Orchard 8 during that time, got all the paperwork and all that stuff, did the website during that time so I could come out with the LLC that June ready to go. And I didn't do anything that summer with it. I just had it there. Had like maybe a couple small projects that summer and fall. Went back to Westminster, did football again and some other sports that fall and spring. Or I think that was the year that they played in the spring actually. So that spring I did a ton of stuff. Filmed you guys win the PAC championship that year.
Yes, sir.
2020. Or 2021, I guess it was.
Mm-hmm.
But then once I was done with school that year, that's when I was like, okay, I really got to start to push this. And so since then, I've started to do a bunch of a lot more corporate and paid projects, a lot of real estate stuff last year. Figured out a lot of the projects that I like to work on, and have since niched down on sports, athletics, drone work for businesses, and just like general like corporate videos, stuff like that. And then obviously the other big aspect is I got the NFL and the NHL jobs.
I was gonna ask, take us through those initial
that
initial
was long,
process.
wasn't it? 2 minutes.
We got 2 minutes. Oh, we got 2 minutes to answer the
Okay.
Steelers question, because
All
I
right.
think that's a pressing one that needs answered.
So
And Pens.
well,
And Pens.
along the same storyline that I just gave you. So I'd see these people like Mike Spinos, Alex Mowry, like two of the people I work with currently doing this for the Steelers. And I was like, I do this the same, like literally the same job for Westminster. I want to do that for like a pro team. So that put that job on the radar, the NFL LCC program, live content correspondent. And they basically started that program around that same time, like 2016, 2017, as a way to get fans as close as possible to the action. So for a while, it was hard to even figure out where to apply. And it was so like in demand that like you couldn't really, they didn't put applications out because they would just have people on their ready to go. That they're, oh, we'll email this guy, see if he's interested. So I applied a couple times when I would see stuff, and probably at least 3 or 4 times, never heard anything. At the same time, was applying to a bunch of other sports jobs, never heard anything. So I was beginning to like not give up on it, but like maybe it's just not meant to be right now. Like maybe I'm not cut out for like that world, or it's just so hard to get your name in front of like a big organization like that. But this past summer just happened to message, it happened one day. I just saw a story and was like, hey, we're looking for somebody in the Pittsburgh market. Messaged them, and they're like, hey, message this girl, and she's now my boss. But I messaged her, didn't hear anything for 3 months until September. And then I remember I was laying on the couch one day, and it popped up, and it was like, hey, would you be able to interview on Monday? And I was like, absolutely.
I'm there.
So interviewed, and then I didn't hear anything again for a week. And I was like, maybe I didn't do it. And then a week later, I got the phone call, and I was like, oh yeah, like got it. That's the story for that. And the NHL one, just they saw my work on Gondola, and they were looking for somebody in Pittsburgh. And I guess it's kind of one of those things. Once you have that credibility behind you, it's easier to open other doors.
Yeah, right on, dude. I mean,
So that's the story.
dude, hell yeah, bro.
It's kind of long though.
No, not at all. I mean, we rolled with that, bro. That was great, and I think that the Steelers to the Pens. I mean, I was gonna ask you, what do you think's the most you've grown in your business? Do you think it's been this past year?
Definitely 2022. So basically the last 12 months, because I started 2022. The only project I had January 2022, as far as like out looking for the whole year, was a wedding, I think, in August. And that was literally the only project I had. So going into the year knowing I only had $2,000 worth of projects, and that was one project, I was like how is it possible to even get towards the 6-figure mark or anything like that? And I was like that all the way till pretty much end of February, and then one of my old friends reached out, and she works for a hotel, 2 different hotels down in Charlotte, North Carolina, and they were looking for video. And I pitched like the FPV drone fly-through stuff. And she's like, oh my God, I love it. They love it. Let's do it. So I flew down there in March, basically about a year ago, actually. Flew down there, was down there for 3 days, filmed these videos, completely solo. Honestly, kind of crazy that I did it like by myself now that I look back, because it was a lot of work.
Yeah, bro, that's a
and
lot
I think
of shooting
the product could have been better looking back if I did it with more than one person. But so I think that was one of the big ones where I was like, oh, like I could do this. Like I'm working for a major hotel brand. They trust me to do this. And then it just really snowballed from there. I started to get bigger projects, bigger names. And then really getting the NFL one and the NHL one the same year, that just, it really lit the fire under me. I was like, okay, now I have that confidence to be able to charge what I want to charge and say no to certain projects, and kind of just adds a little bit of credibility. So I learned a lot this past year, learned a lot about taking too many projects, learned about not reaching out whenever I have downtime to try to land those next things for a couple months, and also learned about how it can be kind of a grind, and it could burn you out if you get too overwhelmed with some of the projects. So
Yeah.
a lot of
that's,
growth.
That's huge. I I think, yeah, especially now with the way that you did acquire the Steelers one, I think that work comes your way too as well. Now it's like, okay, Josh is the dude right now that's
I mean,
around here, bro.
It's just like with your stuff. Like people start. It's unfortunate, but people start to pay attention once they see like stuff of that caliber happen,
Mm-hmm.
and you'll get people like that hit you up that weren't really like paying attention until they saw that, and they're like, oh, like we're boys, and I'm like, you know what
Yeah,
I mean?
right. No,
Where were you
stinks,
the last 4 years?
It stinks that it takes that long to get to that position,
Yeah.
and like for someone to support it now, and it's just like.
Just
So
the way
if you're
it
not
goes,
if
though.
you're not getting the support now, don't worry, because someone out there will,
Yeah.
and they'll support what you're doing. I think like a big thing with us too is like there's like a cool community with what you do, what I do as well.
Mm-hmm.
So seek that if you're going out and trying to start your own thing too. I always noticed that with mine, I always went to a lot of people that did other services, and that was like the biggest thing.
Yeah.
Like so. Barbershops, estheticians, nails. I mean,
they get it.
They get it. They
Mm-hmm.
get the hard work that you put in, and they get the service that's behind it, and they get that you care.
Yeah.
If you don't care, then obviously that's
People will
number
tell.
one. Yeah.
People can tell for sure. And I think another thing I want to add too on that is, like what you were saying, there's going to be plenty of times where you're the only person that sees the vision, like the dream inside your head, because there's just people may say they see it, but you're the only one that truly sees it. So it's kind of just you versus you the entire time. And it's cliche, but it's literally what it comes down to. You can't get mad at people if they don't get as excited about something, or they don't get as mad when something bad happens with your business. Only it's 100% you the entire time that can get the full vision, the full perspective. There was something else I was going to say. I forget.
All right.
Regarding that.
Hey, I agree wholeheartedly. Right on. I mean, I know you were kind of talking on just like you seeing it sometimes. I was gonna ask you if like you ever had the days where you're just like in your own thoughts and you're to yourself, because so many times of our work that we do it's by yourself. I mean, especially with me just doing it this past summer, sometimes like you get in your head a lot of times. I mean, what have you done to kind of mitigate those thoughts? I had a question in there about the Orchard 8 and the way your name came to be. Do you go back there and like play and just realize, hey, this is why I started?
Oh yeah, all the time. Yeah, that's one of the biggest things I going back to like the growth in 2022 is like you realize doing it by yourself, which Orchard 8 is basically just a freelance gig for me at the moment. I hire out help occasionally with editing or with other photographers or videographers. So it's just me in front of the computer a lot of the time. That's the majority of the time, sending emails, editing, researching, doing all of that stuff.
I don't think people realize how much you work, bro.
It's a lot of work. Yeah.
You work a lot, man.
Uh-huh.
You grind.
So one of the things that I began to realize is like it's very solitary. It can get lonely at times because it's not like an office setting where you just turn around, oh, hey, Alex. Like there's literally just you. And it goes back to the thing, too, what I was saying, where you're the only person that can see the vision. No one else is going to care about.
That was a diesel truck that definitely picked up on the headphones.
Oh,
Sorry.
yeah, we
Keep
heard
going.
that a little
Keep
bit.
Going. I just wanted to say that before you started getting into it. I think I freaking crushed the sound.
You're the only one that's going to care about the results. Like, people aren't going to be reaching out to you on a daily basis. Like, oh, how's business? Like, unless you're 50-50 with somebody partnership-wise, like, you're the only person that's going to care. So that was a big realization. But yeah, I mean, a lot of times you're just sitting around, and I found that, or you're sitting around solo, and I found that when I was like solitary and like didn't break it up, and by break it up I mean just not sit there for a full 8 hours, like just sitting in front of the computer by yourself, I would become less productive. I'd become less motivated. The quality of the work sometimes would drop because I'd be like, I just want to get this done. So it's kind of weird, and I have it written down on my phone. I forget what it's called, but there's some law out there that says like if you put time blocks in and restrict your time on certain things, you'll get it done within the certain window. So basically, if you have 5 days to complete a project, it'll take you 5 days to complete the project, versus if you have 8 hours, it'll take you just 8 hours because there's a time limit on it. So through this whole time, this past summer and through the fall. Well, not really through the fall, but through the summer, I was working pretty much 5 to 6 days a week at Treesdale, which is a golf course near where I live. And so I was putting in 40 hours, sometimes more than that, weeks. And I was putting in like 40-hour weeks basically.
Bro.
Basically, when I wasn't there, I was working on Orchard 8,
Yep.
editing, doing emails, like, so it was a lot of work. And
You're
but I
still
loved
kind of
it.
on that schedule too.
I'm still on
Yeah.
it. Not as bad as the summer.
No,
like now
no.
it's like 2 or 3 days a week.
Yeah.
And then the other days I work whenever I can. But I loved it, honestly. It's kind of weird to explain, but like having that separation between the two, and like I think they must use different parts of the brain, because I
Yes.
wouldn't be like tired. I wouldn't be exhausted. Like I was full energy most of the time.
Left-minded. I think your left mind is your creativity side,
Yeah.
which is like is responsible for all your creativity, and then I think like right side is motor skills. I could be
Motor
wrong.
skills and-
I could be wrong. Don't quote me on that. I could be totally wrong.
But it's weird because like I wouldn't get really tired. Like I'd work a full shift there and come home and yeah, maybe I'd chill for a little bit, but then I'd go and grind from like 8 to midnight or something on video, and I'd be fine.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously there's a big sacrifice there, is you don't have free time to do, like, if you're gonna go out to the bar. I don't think I went out maybe more than once or twice the whole summer. Barely played golf this past summer too, which was weird. But it was a sacrifice that I had to make with that like present schedule and the commitments that I had. But I think you kind of experienced it too with like,
Mm-hmm.
if you're just going at it by yourself all day every day,
Mm-hmm.
it's not really a healthy relationship at that point. Like it'll take
Mhm.
over your mind, it'll take over your life, you'll get angry at it.
You can
I
start
think-
talking to yourself, bro.
Mhm.
Like that's dude,
Yeah.
like I would be in the truck some days and I would just like have full blown conversations and be
Yeah.
like, bro, what am I doing? Like
And I think the big thing too is both of us, it started as a hobby, like
Yep.
as a passion type thing. And when you're doing it at those levels of just every day, all day, every day, you begin to get angry at it.
Mhm.
And then it's like you're angry at your hobby, and then it's not really like enjoyable. You lose the enjoyment part of it. So I think that's a big realization this past year, is I was like, maybe I should take a step back, I don't want to say limit how much I do it, but like only work on the projects that I want to work on. Maybe they're bigger projects that I have more time to work on. Stuff that I'm truly passionate about versus just accepting everything. And I think you're in the same boat with your stuff too.
Yeah,
So-
exactly. Yeah, I mean I was mentioning earlier, now it's just kind of doing the people I enjoy working with, and like
Yeah.
even once I graduated, it'll probably just be, a thing that I try to get in on a weekend here and now and then, whenever I want to do it. And do like a bigger job like you said, which is nice, and it's a lot less stressful. You're not hustling, you're not running, like you're running from job to job to try and make money and like squeeze out money. But because like that was what I've been doing the past 2 summers, man, is just running from appointment to appointment, working from like 7 to like 7 some days, bro. And you begin to like think
Aw,
of
shit.
wonders. I was gonna mention that, and I'm not sure.
I think it's good, but
Is it still recording?
yeah, we're good.
Oh, okay, cool. Bro, I
thought
looked
it was done.
I
was
looked
like,
over and I saw it
Is
went
that
to like the
camera
screen.
still going?
Oh yeah.
Okay, good.
I looked over and I saw the screen and I was like,
Probably got like 200 shots on here.
Well, I'm
Yeah,
talking
man.
about that camera. That one's
Yeah.
still good. See if it still says record. Should be like a little small text says REC. It's red.
Okay, yeah, it's there.
no,
Okay,
we're
good.
good.
See it for a second.
We're doing a little mic check now midway through.
Yeah,
we're
we
good.
just got to make sure we're good here.
We need a production intern.
Honestly, yeah.
Hey, right now.
That is
Alex
Alex.
is our
Shout-
production intern. Wait till you see these flicks later.
I'm pumped.
But real quick, just to answer the second part of your question
Mhm.
about Orchard 8. Orchard number 8 is a golf hole at Treesdale. And I named the company that because I liked the way it sounded, and there was nobody else with Orchard 8 out there. There was no other company named that. So that was a big thing. I didn't want to take a name from a company that already existed. And I wanted to have some sort of meaning behind it. And everything really stemmed from Treesdale, the people that I met there, the members that I networked with. It got me even more projects. But also just the fun we had on that golf hole. And I would play it when I'd play with friends, or even when we were working, we'd drift golf carts down that hill and almost crash.
I have some
Shout out.
I have some wild golf cart stories as well.
They're fun. I mean, the memories, man. 6 a.m. we're driving through there at like 100 miles an hour.
And that grass is slick, especially when it's cut.
It is. It is.
I didn't realize that because I'm not on a golf course a lot either. But we had a golf outing one time. Me and my sister had to get tasked to go around and pick up the signs at the end of it. Dude, I said, Laura, hold on, or I'm just gonna throw this into neutral and drift down the hill. Horrific idea.
Yeah.
Dude, it is
sideways.
pouring. I slightly turn the wheel to try and like miss this pothole. Second spin that goes around, I get launched out of the golf court. Dude, Lauren somehow gets this thing into like drive and then slams on the parking brake and it stops it. I was just like, wow, that was unreal.
Yeah.
I almost got ran over by the golf cart.
Dude, they can get dangerous quick on those steep hills because
then-
they got their tires aren't really like real grippy because they don't want them to tear up the grass.
No,
So any wetness,
you're sliding.
you're ice skating.
Then you
But,
you see idiots that are freaking driving over bunkers
Oh,
running
yeah.
into each
Dude, we crashed. I mean, I shouldn't say we, but people crash
You know
golf
of
carts
someone.
multiple times
you know
a summer.
someone.
But yeah, so anytime I go back to Orchard 8, like it reminds me of like the roots or like the reason, the vision. And Orchard 8's the highest, probably it's definitely the highest point on the golf course, has to be. And at least very close now that I'm thinking about it. It might not be the highest, but there's a cool view at the top and you hit this drive over the road.
That's cool.
Down the valley. Then you have to go over a pond around the corner and then you finish at the clubhouse in the distance. So it kind of shows you it's like a journey. Orchard 8's a journey. You go over the road. It's a very treacherous hole. You can't mess up or else your score is going to be ruined on that hole 9. So anytime I'm there, and I was actually there today, I played that hole today.
Yeah, I was gonna
I actually played it pretty solid, except for I chunked the chip shot on the approach. I was almost on putting for eagle, but
Damn.
oh well.
That's one that I would like specifically like hold up for now and just be like load all my best shots up for them. But golf, you can't do that, unfortunately.
No, it's crazy. It's a fun game though, but that's kind of the story behind Orchard 8 and me, and that's the story behind Alex too with his
Dude, right.
business.
Right on. This was a well warranted
Yeah.
talking point. To see where.
Do you
want to
keep going with it, or do you want to transition into the?
Bro, whatever you want, dude. Because I can freaking talk all day about you, man.
Well, I don't want to just talk about me. But
No, we're good. Yeah, we could go into our topics, whatever you want to do. That's cool. I think what were we talking about on? Or I sent you. It was like a clip of this guy, dude. I feel like every podcast now that goes viral. Okay, this is what I was talking to you on the phone with. Every podcast now that goes viral is either a just complete reverberation and regurgitation of somebody else's quote. And
Yeah.
that's like the viralness of it. And I saw somebody's quote, like they subtweeted it or commented underneath the post and was like, I swear all dudes podcasts now are just regurgitating other people's quotes. I don't know. Do you believe that to be true sometimes whenever you hear somebody saying like a deep point and then they're like said by?
Well, I think yes.
I think there's a time and a place. Don't get me wrong. I'm going to put my opinion there. Like I think there's a time and a place for it. But whenever like your whole podcast centered around
that
motivation, like grind,
Well,
quotes.
I feel like there's only so much you can say about motivation and grind. Like there's only so many sayings, and you're not going to just come up with a good one every day either. Like
Right.
it's something that happens every once in a while
Yes.
as an individual person. So you look at social media, Instagram in particular, and TikTok. Obviously, like you're scrolling, sometimes you get into those like it's almost accepted. I mean, it's definitely accepted in a way to like borrow and steal quotes.
It
and
is.
steal motivational things. And I'm not going to say I don't do it either. Like
Oh, there's no doubt.
Jared Zeke, like I go through your quotes and I'm like, I'm going to put this on this video of George Pickens and see what it does.
You mix and match it. I've done that too with
Yeah.
some of Jared's shit.
But I don't think it's something you should base your entire
production
brand or podcast about. Like you have to actually do something unique and like different to stand out. Because you can't just do the same thing as everybody else. Won't
Right.
work. So that's why we're outside in the woods.
Back to our roots, dude. This takes me back to the John episode when we were talking about.
Oh, this would have been a imagine
John up
like
here.
in McConnell's or like on the creek with the water in
We're
the back.
gonna make that happen. Guess who has a generator, folks?
Yeah, we're lighting up McConnell's. Honestly, we wouldn't even need it because we would have to scrap this whole part of it. We would just have to do the wireless mics like Frank had on.
That could work.
And then the camera's battery, the mics are battery, that camera's battery. We would just record it on those and put it together later.
I think
Minimal setup.
drop a comment. Where do you want to see us?
We're the
podcast
traveling
next.
podcast.
That's been our gig, bro.
But honestly,
you go and do projects. I
Huh?
do mobile details.
Yeah.
A mobile podcast.
And we both are not in the spot where we have somewhere we can just do it at. Like I mean, if we really could, we could do it at our houses. But
yes, we could do it here. This is.
I'd rather
our
like
house.
this
Yeah.
is. I'd rather do one like this summer. We're gonna be outside a lot.
We
Like
are.
I'm calling it now because it's cool. It's different. Like you can hear the birds chirping in the back. You hear that?
It's incredible. We can see my bird. Oh, my birdhouse is over there to the left.
I don't hear any chirping right now, but
No, in the morning, bro. They've been going at it. I had.
the 2016 birds are back.
I'm waiting on the bird to get into that birdhouse. though. I'm pumped.
Build a family.
You see my window right over there.
I don't know if you can see it on the video.
Yeah, you
but-
can't. There, we'll cue it. We'll drop it maybe.
Yeah.
But you could see the bird from the birdhouse from my window. So I've been eyeing it up, trying to see every morning if I could see some action of something going in and out. But I'm waiting on it. There's nothing yet. I set it up 2 days ago. But yeah, no, dude.
I think it definitely gets regurgitated. And
yeah. Getting back on that talking point. You know what I also find interesting too with some podcasts is the Barstool approach. Alex, you could weigh in on this, bro. I know you
we should have
probably
set you
have
up with a mic.
That's all right. That's all
Oh,
right.
well.
I'll talk back into the mic, see whatever he has to say. But how do you feel about the Barstool, like just saying the most random topics sometimes? Like they've actually been getting a lot of heat for the topics that they did. Were like, do you wash your hands after going to the bathroom? You know?
Like their blog posts?
Yeah, their Instagram posts and stuff.
I mean,
How do you feel? Should that be on Barstool?
I don't know.
I find some of it funny.
You're thinking it should be sports related.
Yes, everybody thinks it should be sports related.
Like the college accounts, like chicks and whatever they do for the male college kids, you can put random stuff there.
Mm-hmm.
But like, it's sports. Like, if it's not sports related, don't post it. Like,
We heard it here first.
You heard it.
Frank the Tank, I love that guy. Him reviewing hot dogs.
He is. He's the man. It is
Frank
getting a little
Tank.
bit chilly out here. This sun needs to come back out. That's
Yeah,
why I
it's
switched.
out right
that's why I
now.
switched to this guy.
It got cold like the last 20 minutes.
No, it did. Yeah, it did. Once we break through, though, we'll be good.
But yeah, I think Barstool has a unique. Dude, I don't know what the official number is, but they have a lot of different shows.
A ton.
Ton of different shows. And they
ton.
all pull in a lot of viewers or
Yeah.
listeners, I guess. Spittin' Chicklets, Foreplay Pod. I don't know
They're
the
good
other
in that
ones,
department. They're very good in that
but Golf
department.
and hockey
It is
they
awesome.
got.
Yeah.
And then they even have. Didn't they have the two chicks? What was that one called?
Yeah, that was
They're not with them anymore, I don't think.
really
Those,
the Alex and the Cooper girl, or Alex Cooper and somebody else.
I forget.
Guy, so.
I don't even know.
Yeah, but
they've-
that was like
they've
one of
done
the
it
big.
right.
That was one of the biggest podcasts, and those girls got paid bank for that. And
Mhm.
the one girl was like, "I don't want no parts of this now," and I'm like, "I don't know how you don't do that."
Yeah, it's wild.
But I guess I get it. I mean, if you really don't and try to make your own show, but yeah, it's
They just sold Barstool.
they did
Well, Dave did.
really
Yeah.
to who?
We sold the gambling part.
I thought he sold the whole thing
He sold the whole thing.
for like 500 or 600 million or
He
something.
sold it to the
That's
Penn
it?
National, which runs the casino.
He sold it to Penn National.
Really?
Unless it was just the gambling part of it.
I bet it's a
But
sports book.
I bet you Barstool's worth more than 600 million.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
it probably
I think
was
it's
just the sports book part.
which is ridiculous.
Still
That-
crazy.
That's 600 mil.
Like that's wild. But they've done it right for sure. What's one thing that gives you the most energy?
Ooh.
Could be something you
I-
consume, or it could be something that you do.
If we're talking about consume, I told Josh how I'm a coffee addict. My girlfriend Julia got me hooked on coffee in high school, and I'm blaming her right now because I consume 2 cups a day, and I'm trying to get back onto 1. I'm just making an excuse, but I should slow down on that because I have people, or I know people, I should say, that have had implications from drinking like too much coffee, and they need to get surgery on their like
Jeez.
esophagus and from hot liquids and stuff. And I'm like, I don't want that. I don't want that to happen to me. So you heard it here. I'm going back to 1 cup a day and maybe ice so it doesn't burn my throat.
So coffee gives you the most?
No,
No.
not that. But you're saying consume. That gives me some good energy.
Coffee.
Maybe whiskey.
I wish I got
whiskey
into
gives me
coffee.
some good energy too.
Whiskey
whenever I
gets you
consume
going.
it. Yeah, that's what happened on the one podcast we were with. I'll just start rolling, dude. I'll start talking.
That
You
was
just be like,
good
bro,
though.
shut
Some deep
up.
thoughts with some
Yeah.
whiskey.
Yeah, just a little sip of whiskey or bourbon. Yeah, that consuming wise, those two probably. Gatorade, you sports drinks and whatnot too. But energy wise, doing stuff has to be working out. That's my huge one. This past summer, I would get up and work out before drinking coffee, which was great. And if you're out there and drink coffee, do this when you wake up. Instead of drinking coffee right when you wake up, glasses of water, wait like 20, 30 minutes, and then have your coffee, and it'll work better. You won't crash. You
Hit
won't
that
crash.
workout in the morning.
Yes, but back to that point, I would work out in the morning. And nothing crazy, like 45 minutes to like an hour. Nothing nuts, but I also was like very labor intensive, so doing both very hard could be a challenge. But yeah, working out, something else gives me energy. I think I go back to that a lot.
Working out.
Yeah, I like driving too. Driving gives me energy.
A good drive, especially up here.
Yeah.
Summertime, windows down, country music playing.
Yes.
That'll give you some energy.
It would.
Underrated. Like I think always growing up, like I always liked to like I was always driving the golf cart even though you weren't supposed to at the golf course, or when I was like 8. Or we had like this little battery operated gator that
Those
I
things
had
are
like
awesome.
plastic, drove that around the yard. So I was always like love driving things.
Yeah, it's exhilarating.
And,
I think driving is huge though too, because I saw something on like why you get road rage is because you have so much adrenaline while
be,
you're
yeah.
driving. So that's probably also why.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, honestly, like driving for fun is so underrated. Like for me, like I love doing that. I mean, I commuted to this school for the last like 2 years. People thought I was crazy, which I was a little bit. I mean, driving that much, but it's the same amount as if you were driving to like downtown every day or something.
Right.
If you were commuting to work,
The
but
Jetta can handle that.
yeah, it was fine, and it's an easy drive, but I loved it. Got the music going, like gave you a separation between the school and like the home, and I don't know, it like allowed me to relax and like focus and
You could get your
think
thoughts out
think
in the car,
about
bro.
stuff on the car on the way home, and I still love doing it now. Like anytime I have to go somewhere far, like I'm about it, especially if I'm driving.
Mm-hmm.
But I hate when I'm not driving.
That's a very great point.
I don't like when I'm the passenger.
I've noticed since I've driven, a couple years. I'm not saying I'm a pro NASCAR driver, but once you get in the car with somebody that is a bad driver, that is the worst.
Yeah.
I've gotten legitimately nervous with like a couple people driving sometimes.
You're out there like hitting the brake on the
I
passenger
hate the
side.
people that like get super close to the back of a car. It just makes me nervous. Like
Uh-huh.
I have to have like a little bit of a distance, I think it's just from my dad, like I said earlier, like he was a truck driver, my pap was a truck driver, so they're obviously when they were teaching me, dude, it was boom, boom, boom. Like
Yeah.
and if you didn't do that, it was like he was pissed off.
Mhm.
A lot of people don't get that, like I'm sure
Yeah.
like
Definitely have met some friends that you get in, you're like, holy shit. Like,
yeah, I have some very good friends that drive extremely reckless and drive like they're driving a sports car Corvette, like trying to beat the brakes off it. And it could get scary sometimes being in a car with a friend like that.
but yeah, it's definitely, I don't know. It's a lot more, time goes quicker, and I'm more comfortable if I'm driving, and like, especially if it's my own car. But
What gives you energy, bro?
what gives me
That-
energy?
that's one of
Well,
them.
that's one of them. I'd say the main thing is similar to you, like being outside in general
Mm-hmm.
when it's nice out. But even when it's not, being like in nature, like anytime I find myself like in a state park or like somewhere where it's real quiet and you can like just stop and like hear how quiet it is. I don't know, something about that
Something like this.
brings me to life. something like this, honestly.
Something like this.
That's why I think I want to get somewhere like in the country when I'm older, because it gives me energy.
Yeah.
But I think that aspect of it, I think that's ties in with golf. Like anytime I golf, especially when I'm solo, you have those moments where it's just quiet, especially if you're walking and you're just walking and you just hear the sounds like that plane flying over. And there's just something about it, being in the sun, being out in nature. That brings me a ton of energy. Part of it is probably like the exercise aspect, even though if you're just walking or like running or golfing, that gives you energy athletically. And,
No doubt.
but even like going and getting like a workout in, that ties into it as well. So I think it's something along that combination of things, and then driving as well. And
the
honestly,
right combo.
sometimes doing, photography, videography, sporting events, especially the adrenaline, that makes me feel alive. But you feel real tired after.
Oh yeah,
But
dude, it's
in the
crazy how
moment-
much it drains you. Yeah, once
Yeah.
you get back from like an event or
Mhm.
you're just like, oh, I'm tired now.
Yeah.
I went and saw sprint car racing, man.
Oh, that'll get you.
You want
going.
to talk about thrilling?
Yeah.
Our old coach, Dale Blaney, sprint car driver. Shout out him, great guy. He raced sprint cars and like professionally, bro.
Uh-huh.
And you have to be insane to do that. They go around this like dirt track at like 100 plus miles an hour.
Adrenaline.
Dude, it's like a quarter mile of a track,
Mhm.
or like probably like an eighth mile track.
I had the F1 on the TV this weekend.
I want
for
to go
fun.
and see it.
Crazy. Dude was hitting like 200 miles an hour down the stretch.
Did you
Verstappen's final lap.
Yep.
did you hear that they're gonna make? They were talking about making NASCAR electric.
I did hear that.
That would be
It'll
terrible.
have to be like it's.
That would be terrible.
I agree. Like you lose. I've never been to NASCAR, but you can't have like
No sound.
instead of like
Do you imagine? Could you imagine some?
not the same.
Not to generalize for the NASCAR crowd, because I'm a NASCAR fan. But could you imagine? You would hear every conversation on the
It'd be
TV.
so weird.
Like, man, look at him go down there.
There's just part of it is hearing that roar.
It is.
But I think it could be cool to have like an electric division that is electric cars.
It is.
Because the speed and the ability of some of these cars is going to be crazy.
Mhm.
And I think that'll be the selling point for it for a lot of people.
I had the chance this past year. We went to Norwalk to watch the drag strips, or that was 2 years ago, to watch the drag races, and they had a fully electric Mustang and fully electric Camaro and Charger.
Really?
Dude, it was the quickest. It was the quickest quarter mile time out of. I'm pretty sure it beat like 3 separate divisions. It was insane. Not
Oh,
a
I
single
bet.
word.
It's probably
All you heard
wild.
was the rubber was
Uh-huh.
just catching.
Yeah.
This thing lifted up. When they hit it, it was. And then just.
It's crazy how quiet the electric cars are too, and how they're so quiet that they had to make it a law that you had to have the sound effects. Did you know that?
I did not know that.
So like a Tesla, when it's moving, I think it's especially when it's in reverse, it makes like the spaceship noise where it's like, and it's literally it only makes that noise because if it didn't, the car could be moving and nobody would realize it, and it would kill somebody, like roll over them backwards.
That
You know what
is
I mean?
that is a very
Like
great
normally,
point.
if a car's on and it's reversing, you'd hear the engine, the exhaust. With the Tesla, especially at low speeds, they're so quiet that you wouldn't even hear it necessarily. So they had to add in the sound effect. So for safety, especially like in parking lots where kids are, so that you at least know that it's a running vehicle and it's moving. Safety feature. Kind of an interesting tidbit. But
How do you feel about GMC has been blasting this commercial with the Denali that's electric, or not? It might be electric. It could be wrong. I gotta double back and
the
check that.
Denali's the truck, right?
The truck, yeah.
Okay.
The Denali truck, and they're doing the commercial where they're doing that
I
and
don't know if I've seen it.
hands free.
Okay. It drives itself?
Drives itself.
Mm.
If I'm in a truck of that size, those Sierra Denalis are bigger than the F-250 by like a long shot. I've
Yeah.
driven past them on the highway. They sit up like twice as high. They're twice. I mean, like their frames are bulky.
Yeah.
They're a bulky car. Or a bulky truck, I should say. I don't know how much I'm necessarily trusting the autonomous feature. Do you think you could?
I I think we could trust. I think I'd trust it a little bit, especially on the highway.
That would be
but
the only time, but I would be very nervous.
I wouldn't like sit there and not pay attention because I mean you're still at the point where if it messes up, that's
You're
it.
dead. Yeah.
Like you're
dead.
done. So I think it's a nice feature to have, and I think very soon we're going to be at the point where you can trust it. But I think the unique thing about America too is like, I mean, think about all the different types of roads around New Wilmington. There's a ton of roads that don't even have lines on them, or they barely fit one car, let alone two. So you have just so many different scenarios that could happen, and then you wonder like, oh, well, what would happen if an autonomous vehicle came to this stop sign and just blew through it and killed somebody?
Mhm.
So that's the biggest obstacle, I guess I'd say, for that. Alex, how long we at?
I have no clue, but you still recording. Oh, we got an hour and 12 minutes.
Oh, we're rolling.
Well, we'll roll through some more questions here.
Bro,
and,
we're rolling. I mean, tangent talks on the autonomous
this is
vehicles.
good, though.
That could be.
That was an hour or 12, and we didn't even feel like an hour.
No, not at all.
It's crazy.
Autonomous vehicles kind of sketch me out, though. I think.
Oh, yeah.
Like you said, though, whenever one rolls into somebody and like has an F up, it's gonna be like the world's over with that. You know what I mean?
And I mean, it already is now.
It's
with,
happening.
like,
Yeah,
when
with
big
Tesla's
crashes
happen,
they
yeah.
blame Tesla, and they're like, they're not safe. They can't be on the road. But when you look at
The numbers, it's
The
kind of
numbers.
wild. Yeah.
how many Tesla crashes have there been with fatalities versus how many crashes have there been, even if you look at like the last 12 months,
Mm-hmm.
versus how many with like a Chevy or a Volkswagen or a Ford.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
The numbers are going to speak for themselves, because I know the Teslas, the one big upside they have is the batteries are low in the middle bottom.
Mhm.
I think in all of them, so it makes the center of gravity really low.
Yep.
So they're very hard to roll over, which is a big. I mean, that's probably one of the big reasons
Safety
people die
features,
is when
yeah.
the car rolls over versus if it stays upright. So that's a big thing. But I think we'll definitely see a lot of electric cars in our generation for sure.
I hope we keep gas cars,
But-
too.
Actually,
I-
before we move on from this, what do you think's gonna happen with like iconic gas cars? So you have like a
You're-
Porsche 911 or a Lamborghini Aventador,
I
or
honestly,
something as simple as a Mustang or a Camaro or a Corvette.
yeah. I
It's
mean,
gas.
you saw Dodge is dropping everything and going all electric with
Mhm.
everything that they have, and I think we're gonna have people in America push back on that hard.
Oh, for sure.
I think the big thing that a lot of people fear is like the control factor that they can have if we're all
That's
electric.
true,
If we're
yeah.
all electric, if you have a gas car, you can go up and get gas and find a way to drive.
Mhm.
If the grid goes off and everybody's electric,
Yeah. We're
w-
fucked.
You're in trouble.
You better hope you got a generator. But
Exactly.
Then you need gas.
And then you need gas. And then we're back. And then it goes back into the whole conversation of like what's sustainably right. And I think people get electric cars thinking that they're making it better for like the environment and whatnot. And a lot of times it can be like, dude, like the cobalt video. I don't know if you've seen that of kids cobalt mining to fuel these
Oh, yeah.
batteries.
Uh-huh.
It's like a messed up system. We went and did one thing that made it better.
Mhm.
And then we realized that it was just the same. It was just another problem in a different way.
Yeah.
So I honestly think that there's going to be a heavy pushback, and then someone is going to make a lot of money by continuing to make gas-powered vehicles. Mustang still is, because they still are making the Mustang or gasoline-powered or combustible engine-powered Mustang. So I think that's
Yeah.
probably going to be the route.
It's going to be interesting. It'll be interesting to see if some of these big cars, like the classics, how valuable they become. I think it was, I don't remember what exact Lambo it was, but there's a YouTuber that I follow, Street Speed 717. He got a Lamborghini. I can't tell you which one it was, but it was a rare one.
Mhm.
Already it was really expensive pre-COVID, but now it went up to like $1 million. And it was, before that, it was like two or 300,000.
Right now, yeah.
And it's still at that value, by the
Yeah.
way. And I think it's only going to continue to go, because if they start going electric, especially specialty cars like that, where it's like a V12 or a V10, those are going to be very valuable, I think.
The car
in the long
community,
run.
yeah, the car community is going to push back, and
Because
they're
there's
gonna keep it
already
at
very
value.
limited numbers of them too.
Yeah, they're going to be they already are assets, but
Mhm.
they'll make it even more so of an asset if they are completely gone.
Yeah. And
I-
those are some of the cars too where you can buy a car like that, but it doesn't lose value.
No,
You know what I
it
mean?
gains it. It's going to gain value.
So
Yeah.
that's the difference. Is like you buy a Volkswagen Jetta, the whole time you own it, it's going down in value.
Mm-hmm.
So say you spent 30K, that 30K is turned into 10 by the time you're done with it. Lambo, you might have bought it for 200K and now it's worth 500.
Right.
If you take care of it and if you're not doing crazy mileage on it and stuff
Exactly.
like that, modifying it real bad. So that's interesting.
You'll
But-
have someone out there that wants to pay for it.
Oh yeah. So have you seen any of the talk about the 4-day work week?
I did, and I was gonna mention that to you whenever you were bringing up the point
Really?
of the 4-day work week. Or talking about how much you don't. Sometimes you take like a step back and don't work,
Mhm.
like where you need that time to step back. I think the 4-day work week is pretty
Big.
big. It works.
Going to be a game changer.
It works. It works. A lot of I know a lot of people are also going to the half days on like Friday and stuff
Mhm.
like that. I think people are going to seriously appreciate that, and then also being able the flexible schedule now is huge too for
Yeah.
everybody. That they could go home and take some time, or they could do some stuff but also work.
Yeah.
So I think that's going to be big. It's going to make people happier. I think we saw that a lot through
Mhm.
this past past year and a half with COVID, and the suicide rates just like being through the roof. If people are working a little bit less and enjoying themselves on 3 days, I mean,
That's the
it's
thing.
better.
and
It's better. Hopefully we can improve.
on our, because I feel like it's been 9 to 5, 40-hour weeks. You only take a vacation and maybe Christmas off for a lot of people. And I think COVID has ushered in some change, especially with the remote work aspect of it. But some companies realize that their employees may work better working on their own time schedule. So maybe that means they wake up at 6 and they work from 6 to 10 a.m. and then they don't come back until like 3. They work from 3 to 7, or they come back at 6 and they work 6 to 9, something weird. So
Mhm.
weird hours. Obviously, this isn't feasible in every industry or every company, but I think you are starting to see, like, our generation, any friend, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but any friend or acquaintance or anyone that's our age that I've talked to absolutely hates working 5 days a week, 9 to 5, and
Yes.
not being able to just go do whatever they want whenever they want.
I think there's a huge pushback on our generation as well in terms of like doing things that make you happy.
Yes.
Versus like the generation before us has just worked hard to work hard and make a family and put a family on the have a roof over your family's house, and I think like that's why you see the birth rate dropping, like people aren't having families sooner, because people are finding their happiness still, man. And I think that's a big
I think
thing
it's
with
taking
everything.
it's taking people longer too to get to that point where they're stable enough to be like, okay, we can have family,
It is
or even
everything's
find a
so-
relationship. There's a lot of people that it's taking a lot longer for people to get married
It is
in general,
It
or
is.
not even get married, but like get into a long-term relationship.
There's so much
have
trust.
kids.
There's so much trust issues now. It seems
Mhm.
like, man. I think the biggest thing, like we talk about it goes back to our phones. It goes back to social media. It goes back to how you act and present yourself on there versus how you are as a human being. And if you can't even communicate with people in the real world, but all you can do is text and call and be somebody else on Instagram, man, it's definitely, I honestly think it's probably the biggest, shift in why things are the way they are.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And who knows what the long-term consequences will be with that. But, yeah, so the idea with the 4-day work week is work 4 10-hour days versus working 5 8-hour days. So you still work the same amount of hours. You only do it over 4 days. Then you have 3 days off. So I would personally probably prefer, like, the flexibility aspect of being, like, I control my own destiny a little bit. So I don't have an issue working like a Saturday or a Sunday, but I'll probably be off like a Tuesday or a Wednesday in exchange. You know what I
Right.
mean? So
You
that's,
also
I
make
think,
your own schedule too.
Yeah, so I'm on a different approach where I kind of like, I'm in a unique situation, I guess.
Yeah.
But a lot of the friends that I've talked to, they don't dig the, I got to be here 9 to 5. I mean, I have friends that do 8 to 5s, it seems like.
Yeah.
So they're working more than 40 hours.
Yeah.
And a lot of those are typically in the sales industry. But just seems like a lot of people I talk to, they're just not fully content with it. And that leads us to our next question, which is, do you feel fulfilled by life currently?
Right now, yes. I mean, I think there's more out there, more to explore and do, of course. But right now I'm pretty happy. I'm healthy right now. I'm, enjoying what I'm doing. I think I constantly chase like the next thing, and Frank talked in it the last podcast about being present. So I've been trying to do that a lot, and I know like me and you always talk about goal setting and achieving those goals, but it's really great to set the goals, but to also just be present in the moment and accept everything that's going on and analyzing everything that's going on around you to like kind of propel yourself forward to be better in the future. So I feel fulfilled, but still like hungry to be better, if that makes sense. Like I'm happy on this journey right now.
I like it. You dig the journey.
Yes.
It's big.
What about you, Josh?
I would say yes. I would say maybe the fall. Well, there was aspects of the fall where I was very fulfilled, and there was aspects of the fall where I wasn't. And I think it was kind of like figuring out what that was. But yeah, now I feel much more fulfilled. I've balanced things out, and kind of just, like you said, trying to be more present and enjoy the now versus worrying about the future. Because I think that's pretty big. So
Yeah.
kind of just soaking up the now, the time with your friends, the time with your family, what's going on today versus what's going on a year from now. And also ignoring less about what you should be doing. There's a lot of like, oh, well, you're 23, you should be doing this. I think that's a big issue for a lot of people, is they live their life based on old cultural norms. Kind of tying back to the last question, things have changed from like our parents' generation. A lot of people are doing things differently. So it's not fair to compare yourself to somebody that was growing up at this age
In a different
20
era.
years ago, a different era. We're kind of writing our own story here. So it's, once I realized that aspect and like came to peace with that and started to try to live more present, I'd definitely say I'm fulfilled. Enjoying the journey, figuring things out, and making the most of it with this podcast, with my own business, with everything else that we've got going on. I think that's the way I would summarize it. And lastly, I remember what I was going to say earlier. When you're getting into like a freelance business or a solopreneurship type thing, I think everybody thinks it has to be like the next Facebook or the next Walmart. It has to be something that's so big that you're raking in billions and flying on the PJ everywhere, you know? But I think for a lot of people, what's going to be more valuable and more fulfilling is being able to live in the present. So getting yourself so you're comfortable enough that you can enjoy things with your family, take your family to nice dinners or nice trips.
Yeah, having
being
a
able to
sustainable
control your
business.
schedule. When you have kids, be able to be present in their lives, like, and watch them grow up. I know there's a lot of people that talk about they were so busy working when their kids were growing from birth to 18 years old that they kind of missed it. They felt like they missed it. So there's a lot of people that want to be around and have the flexibility and the custom schedule to be able to witness that. So I think it's important to realize that you don't have to be making $1 million a year. Like with your business, you could make $200,000 and be just okay. It's just you have to put your own goals in mind and your own targets and shoot for those, and then be fulfilled with that.
Yeah, and
So
put on a little bit of the blinders.
Yes.
But let the blinders have some pull down shades to take in the views.
Yes.
You know, sometimes every now and then is big. And like you said, I think having something or doing something that's fulfilling, but also not to be like a projectionist. And I think that's a big thing with our generation is with social media, we see things that we should have, like, oh, I see this guy doing this, like I should do that. But having the ability to step back and really just take it all in and not be worried about the next best thing, or why don't I have this job, or oh man, I should have this job. But being happy with what you are doing. You know?
Yes. And I actually was just talking about this with a friend the other night, but it's easy to like get caught up in that thinking of like you said, comparing things. But sometimes it's cool to sit back and be like, all right, 12 months ago, what was I doing? Like, what did I accomplish in the last 12 months?
It's huge to
and
do
it's
that.
usually a lot more than you give yourself credit for, or that you realize. So I think that's huge. Like, maybe a big goal of yours you crushed this year, but since it's not like that, you since discovered other goals, it's kind of like you just forget about it. You don't acknowledge it. But like, you got to celebrate that. Otherwise, you're not going to be fulfilled.
Reflecting is okay.
Reflecting is huge, and it's definitely okay. So
I think-
basically, the moral of the story is like patience, take a step back, deep breath, and don't like force things, and don't like create anxiety around those things that people are comparing around you.
I love it.
Solid.
That's it. That is a great little point there.
All right, let's wrap this one
I like
with
it.
another no lack quote,
Oh,
and we can discuss it here real quick. That W that you desperately want is tucked behind that L that you're too scared to take. From our man Jared Zeke.
very.
It's basically a new way of saying something that has always been said, but basically a lot of the big doors that are going to be opened are tucked behind, like, I don't know what they're tucked behind.
They're tucked behind the moments that I think make you scared or nervous.
Yeah.
I think like me and you could both attest to points that we've done that the nervous times have made us better.
Mm-hmm.
I talked earlier about doing the Rolls-Royce Cullinan. I was shitting myself. Like I was
Yes.
terrified doing
Mm-hmm.
that car. But I think that was like the biggest growing point for me. Even this podcast, dude, like our first episode. I mean, I think we're both kind of like natural. We're obviously boys, and like talking is easy, but finding and interviewing people can be a little bit butterflyish. You know, it can give you the butterflies a little bit. So, I mean, even doing that, like,
Yeah.
and then behind the podcast door is just having fun, and then we're like, this is awesome. Now we're recording an episode in my backyard.
Yeah. Look at the 12-month. Like, we started, we had one microphone.
Yes.
And the quality of the audio was awful. We did it in the middle of the golf center. Like, how far we've come since that. So that goes back to that reflecting. But back to the quote, like, yeah, I think both of us can agree that almost every one of our W's, our wins, came from doing something that was like pretty scary, or like gave you a little anxiety about. I mean, almost every every step I took to get to like a bigger project, it was a lot of times I was just faking it till I made it. Like, I don't know how I'm gonna do this, but I'm gonna figure it out. Like, I'll do this project. I'll agree on something. Never having doing that before. Never done a project like that before. But I'm just like, I'll figure it out.
Yeah, you did your research,
And you've done the same.
Yeah.
With
Yeah.
your business, and like, I've never done a car like this before, but
Mhm.
we're gonna figure it out.
Exactly, exactly, and that's everything, man. You don't hit the panic button. I think it goes back to our 20s.
Mhm.
Like, especially right now with me, you don't know everything, but you do it and you figure it out.
Yeah. And the
Don't
rewards,
stress.
the rewards that came from that have almost always been worth it.
Exactly.
So it's
all right to-
important, even for us, to be like, oh, we need to do things that scare us a little bit sometimes.
Yes. Nothing maybe like physically harming.
Yeah.
But in moderation.
Shoot your shot. Like, what do you got to lose?
Exactly it.
What's the worst that could happen?
Hell.
And chances are, if it does go south, you're not going to be thinking about it 12 months later. Nobody else will either.
Yeah. If things do hit the panic button and things do go wrong, you step back and take another route.
Yep. And most
But-
people don't pay as much attention to you as you think either.
That is huge.
You think I think
Everybody
that was a
thinks
big thing.
yes,
like,
everybody thinks they matter like the president.
Yep.
And truth is, once you stop giving a fuck, dude, the book, I have it in there and I'm giving it to you today. Once you really do, like, that's huge. And I mean, obviously the people you care about have some good points, but I mean, even them sometimes too, man. It's a battle, like, just doing it your way.
Absolutely.
But that was a solid
episode.
podcast.
We got to get some sponsorships. We're gonna have to start getting sponsorship from Nolak.
Yeah,
because
we're working on it.
I borrow his quotes every episode.
we are working on that. Is actually in the works.
It's in the works. Maybe another one down the line too.
On the DL, that one is in the works. But we appreciate our man Alex. He's on the camera. He's on the recording.
Alex, show yourself.
Yeah, pop in, bro. Do a little face shot. Hey, there we go.
There he is.
But if you made it through this whole episode, we appreciate you listening. We appreciate the constant support, the reposts on our feed. Stay tuned because we got a lot more coming. We got exciting guests coming, and we're having fun. And I hope everybody back home is having fun too.
Facts. Peace.
Deuces.